gave me this kind of eye. I no go talk sha, but all the same. Of course, I saw that very video, which you made reference to, where a certain building was pulled down. In fact, it was even set on fire, and according to reports, it belongs to a commander of anti-touting. Is he still a commander or former commander of anti-touting squad? According to that very story, that he was linked to criminal activities, and then the federal government had to come to put down that very building because he has been on the lawn for quite a while now. So we're going to hear more on that development. Once we get more information about it, of course, we're going to serve it on the very platform. Also, yesterday, in Ebonyi State, there was state burial for those Ebonyi indigenes who were killed in Oboji, Orumba part of Anambra State. I think that killing happened on June 30th, 2025. So we can say that the state burial was done roughly 2 months after that very incident. And the governor of Ebonyi State, who actually coordinated what happened yesterday, he lamented that, like roughly 2 months after that incident, that nobody has been arrested in connection with those killings. And he said that he had expected more than what we have today. They now come to Anambra State, where this very morning, police issued a statement talking about the success they recorded when they invaded a criminal camp in Awa. I think that is in Orumba area too. In that very operation, from what police said, they were able to kill 4 of the criminals who were camped in that very area. According to the police, they worked together with Agone Chamber in that very operation. And I looked at the list of things that they recovered, and it's quite evident that those criminals, they have a living cell there, because if police was able to recover about two bags of 50 kg rice, sleeping mats, what have you not, that is their home, from where they operate, and they launch all kinds of criminal activities. They even recover things like improvised explosive devices. So we say kudos to the police for this very breakthrough they made, of course, in an effort to ensure that we sleep with our 2 eyes closed. So these are some of the things actually trending around the corner. And okay, let me not forget too that yesterday too, the Anambra State Commissioner for Education, she announced that the state government has banned the practice of writing assignments inside textbooks, because they are planning that siblings will be able to reuse textbooks of their brothers and sisters. So it appears like Anambra is dropping its own in batches in comparison to what other states did. Maybe it's the era of states banning schools from conducting, what's it called again? Conducting graduation parties for pupils who are in classes other than graduating or finishing classes. So these are things we have now on board, and maybe when we now begin to look at the papers, we'll see all the headlines there. And of course, this morning, Tony is also in the building. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Franklin Ebuka. Good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, the Anambra. Good morning, in your nature, wherever you're listening to us from. It's always a pleasure. Remember, we are back in our sanctuary. We also say good morning to our Creator, the God Almighty, for making us alive, for being here. It's not easy. Every morning we wake up is a testimony, is a miracle. No matter how you look at it, it's a miracle. There are many that had slept but they couldn't wake up. It's a pleasure to be here, and we are here to do justice to some of the developing stories. There's so many of them, but we can take as much as we can. You're welcome.
Okay, so go to our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and get interactive there. We have post already. Our video is up there. Get to share the video and join this very conversation. Of course, we have to go to the papers this very morning. Let's see what the papers are saying. And as usual, we have a photo of them, and we're going to bring the headlines. We have a Punch newspaper, we have Tribune, Vanguard, and The Guardian. And let's begin with the headlines we have on the Tribune newspaper. There is the headline that says, FG denies signing any agreement with ASU. The story is on page 3 of the Tribune newspaper. It has 2 riders. One says, describes document as draft, sets up technical team to fine-tune government proposal. And ASU isn't finding this phony. ASU said, it appears government is bad at keeping records. That's the way they describe this very thing that came from federal government. Then above the nameplate of Tribune, PDP considering Jonathan Obi for 2027 presidency, Bauchi governor confirms. It's on page 5. He was on TV yesterday where he made that very revelation. We are under attack. NNPC CEO cries out. Oil workers back reforms. It's on page 15. Ojulari, we know how he came into the news, and there was this very speculation that he resigned, and he kept on. He didn't say anything. He didn't debunk it. He didn't confirm it. But now we have been seeing him appearing in public functions, and yesterday he had a function with a Pangasin where he spoke, and he said that when he came on board, he had to look at the commercial viability and the functionality of the refineries we have, the ones that were under rehabilitation, and he came to conclusion that they cannot continue to waste money, because according to him, we are spending not less than $200 million every month to service those very refineries, but they're not bringing out any output. So he chose that for now they have to shut them and find a way to bring in a professional refiner who they can work together in a PPP arrangement to get that very refinery working and again get the best result out of it. But he's saying that because of the reform that he's trying to bring in, that he's been receiving threats because some persons don't want him to bring in those reforms, and that tells you the story of Nigeria. Then another story on the front page of Tribune says Ocean public servant hold solidarity rally for Adeleke on page 12. It has a write that says he is empathetic to workers. You see the picture story there. Then 2027 and not contesting any position El-Rufai is on page 4. Excess crude account now $535.823. NEC orders accelerated reforms is on page 15. Ibadan Convention, PDP said to inaugurate Fintiri, Makinde, Adeleke, Fubara, Saraki, 105 others as organizing members is on page 15 of the Tribune newspaper. Then a health story here. Diabetes fuels more aggressive breast cancers. Study is saying so. It's on page 3. FG targets 1 week passport delivery, vows to end racketeering. It's on page 12. Editors killed, decries killing of journalists in Gaza. It's on page 30. And the last story on this very front page of Nigerian Tribune says Abuja Cardinal Road safe. Alright there. Abuja Cardinal Road safe. Omokri claims as he tours road. It's on page 3. As somebody will say, he's been doing the job that he was commissioned to do. Then over to Vanguard newspaper. We have the banner headline says 2027 opposition parties battle INEC over voters data. It's on page 5. It has plenty of riders, and I'm going to leave the riders and go to other headlines. Dangote Group, Ethiopia signed deal to build $2.5 billion fertilizer plant. It's on page 19. FG ASU disagree over agreement on page 8. I'm under attack. Some people are plotting to unseat me. NNPCL GCO Ojulari is on page 9. Guild of Editors condemns killing of journalists in Gaza is on page 9. I think the number of journalists who have killed in Gaza, I think they are around 11 now or more than that. And it seems Israel is not blinking an eyelid over what they did. Then another headline on the front page of Vanguard says 2027 Amici Rusa stepping down. It's on page 9. Declares interest in ADC presidential ticket. Terrorism, DSS files charges against 9 suspects over Benue Plateau killings. It's on page 6 of Vanguard newspaper. There's a picture story there. It has a title that says Oboroweri presents Delta potential to Brazilian investors. A story coming from Delta State. And this one says court declines to stop Rivers local government poll as police restrict movement. The election is going to hold on, I think, August 30th. And the case was postponed till September. So I'm just wondering what is going to happen, because the court said go ahead with the election and still scheduled for hearing in September. Then this story says diaspora inflows hit $600 million monthly. Cardoso is on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. And we have to go over to the next newspaper, which is a Punch. The banner headline says, Tariff War, FG intervenes as state discourse rift deepens. On page 27, it has riders. Next summons meeting between state energy commissioners and discourse operators. Tariff reduction can't work. Discourse as the one saying so. Our focus on power sector reforms, commissioners. Then beside the nameplates, FG defends passport price. FG defends passport price hike to 100 naira. Yes, 100,000 naira. 200,000 naira. That was yesterday. When I went for my passport, was it 26,000 or thereabout? And then later it was increased to 35,000, and from 35,000 to 50,000, and now 50 to 100,000. I'm talking about 32 booklets. If you are going for 62 booklets, then I'm paid 200,000. Then FG ASU clash. FG ASU clash over 2021 agreement. The story is on page 2. NEC unveils roadmap for $1 trillion economy by 2030. It's on page 40. Long-term neglect hindering refineries revamp. NNPC. It's on page 28. You see the picture of Udala by the side. Motorist laments low Shagami Jebode road repairs. It's on page 40. Awaiting trial inmates feeding gulps 14 billion in 8 months. It's stories on page 39. And if you look at the figure now, we have about 53,000 persons on awaiting trial in the correctional centers we have across Nigeria. And federal government has budgeted, I think, 1,200 and something naira for the feeding per day. So when you do the multiplication, you see how much we spend on daily basis to feed these very inmates.
So why don't you just decongest?
Exactly. But another thing is, do we actually spend that much? Because in as much as this is their location, those people who are taking care of them, do they commit that very money into it?
You know, when outside the feeding, even you talk about the environment. I think the next thing that we have Nigerians really talking about, we should have Nigerians really talking about, is the state of our correctional facilities, and are they really being corrected or being, do I say, psychologically battered?
That's the situation we have in Nigeria. Ordinarily, when you go to a correctional center, it's supposed to reform you that when you come out, you can become better. That's why we have parole as a provision.
Surely.
Yes, if you go to prison and within time of your conviction, you behave in a certain way, of course, it can get free. But what we have here is dungeon other than correctional centers. INEC pushes back as opposition rejects Southwest voter figures. The story is on page 2. How 8,000 naira dispute led to Lagos market killing traders. The story is on page 4 and 5. Tony, we talked about this yesterday. 8,000 naira led to loss of life. And the second person, if he survives, I do not know. But I heard he was fatally wounded too. FGI's 21% GDP boost with e-governance bill. And these are the headlines we have on Punch newspaper. Let's move over to The Guardian before we get to begin our conversations. There's a better headline here. The big story is on pages 4 and 5. It says, bad for business. Surge in unruly fan conduct. Match day violence plunge MPFL in crisis. Interesting. FG approves lifetime salary for retiring senior officers. It's on page 7. Nigeria facing malnutrition. 97% food insecure, says FG. Is on page 7. Tertiary institutions on edge as ASU, SSANIP, FG feud heightens strike fear. Is on page 6. 2027, INEC fires back as ADC PDP demand probe of new voters record in Osun. Is on page 6. In fact, most of the parties have questioned that very record, which was put out by INEC. How could Osun record such a figure of close to 400,000 pre-registrations in 1 month? But I bet you, if you take your time to go into the records, you know that Osun has maintained that record of recording the highest number of registration in the past. I can say in the past 3 years or thereabout. Then kidnappers of Katsina couple daughter demands 600 million ransom. The story is on page 29 of Ghana newspaper. And above the nameplates, NNPCL vows to revive refineries. shops for $60 billion to expand capacity. You can't intimidate us. Oshun workers tell FG over withheld local government's funds. And then 2027, I'm not leaving NNPP, but open to discussions, says Kwan Kwaso. And the final story, Ethiopia to rank second in SSA's urea production with Dangote's 3 million fertilizer plants. These are the stories we have on the front page, or rather front pages of these very newspapers we have this very morning.
All right, we do not have so much time, so we are going over to the conversation, and we're going to be making it really snappy today. Frank, pretty sure you saw that report about the Commissioner for Education in Anambra State, Professor Ngozi Chumude, announcing a directive yesterday talking about private schools not, the textbooks that they use not being reusable. They have given a directive that has, Ngozi Chumude has given a directive that has to go. Also, she wants that this idea of writing assignments inside textbooks. My toddler has exercise books that she writes assignment with or in, and then she has a bunch of other books that she comes home with. For some, it is painting colors. For some, it is painting alphabets and all of that. Now, while this might all serve different purposes in the cognitive development of a child in still within the school age, do you think that only exercise books are enough? I understand this is to cut cost, which unfortunately these people are not pitying parents at this point in time. If, as a parent, if you've collected the new term fee breakdown, you will shout. Toddlers are paying as much as 112,000 for what? Books are costing 45,000 for a toddler. I mean, for a toddler of nursery 1. And I am just wondering where we draw the line between what is necessary and cutting cost, Tony.
I guess the developments, what we saw yesterday, or even the news, have it everywhere that you cannot write assignments inside the textbooks. But you remember the need or the purpose why government exists. Government exists to create balance, to checkmate irregularities, and also this idea of doing things to enrich oneself. Yes, sometimes we are reactive, there's no doubt, because if we have had templates over time, it wouldn't have been an issue. Once you're at school, you key into the template, you key into the defined policies. We have lacuna, especially when it comes to policies, either on area of health, education, security, trade, and market. We have so many lacuna. We don't have a kind of well-developed and comprehensive policies. That's why government comes from time to time to react to certain trends and pattern. If you go to UK, as we speak today, there is a comprehensive policy on education. You wouldn't at any point find trend, pattern, and all that. You can't find it because they had thought afar and they had imagined what people could do and use policy frameworks to put those things in perspectives.
But I'm interested in this idea of cutting cost.
Okay.
Right? And of course, checking what is necessary. Have these two things been properly balanced?
If you look at the idea of cutting costs, one, you buy textbooks. The textbooks are foisted on the pupils, the students, with the sole aim to make money. That's the idea of having these pupils to write their assignments inside these textbooks. Many of us didn't grow this way. We have talked about this many times here. We did not grow this way. And according to the release I saw this morning, and then the Ministry of Education and Anambra State said it's not sustainable. How many parents can afford these textbooks? Situations where somebody could have ordinarily written these assignments in ordinary exercise books, could not afford the textbook. What it means that the person will mix the assignment. Missing the assignment and doing the assignment on exercise book, which one is more important? The most important thing is having the assignment done, because these schools will make it in such a way that if you don't write these assignments inside their textbooks, approved textbook, exorbitant textbooks, you will not have the assignment done. So the poor children will be denied. Pure discrimination. So I'm in total support of this very idea coming from the Ministry of Education and Anambra State. But just like I said earlier on, can we have a comprehensive policy as against being reactionary or being reactive to some of these things from time to time? Once we discover any trend, we come back and then try to regulate the trend. We can imagine what people can do. That is one thing. So the idea is, I remember when we were growing, we had assignments done in exercise books. Why are they not being done in textbooks?
That was even a workbook. That was like during my time, we had a work. You have your exercise book. You have a workbook where you can write inside it, but you don't write inside a textbook. A textbook is a textbook. It's meant for you to, further reading on any subject. You can even read ahead of time, or when you want to study at your own convenience, you use textbook to do that. But there as of then, there were workbooks that you can write inside, and also you have the exercise book which you do your assignment. But like like we do say that in our time now, we have this very liberalization in the education sector where anybody does whatever he deems fit that he wants to do to make his own kind of delivery, maybe different from what others are offering. But in the real sense of it, of course, we're supposed to have a certain standard that nobody can go below it, or even if when you want to improve on what we are doing, of course, it should be within the supervision of the government. For me, I'm looking at the education where we begin to de-emphasize all this English and arithmetic, where our children could begin to have a hands-on craft at an early stage, so that even when somebody finishes secondary school, on your own, you can even start up something. You can create something and begin to even employ labor. Other than this system we have now, you finish your primary school, you don't have any hands-on experience. You finish your secondary school, go to university. Was it not yesterday a friend of mine was writing on Facebook that he read computer science, and throughout his time in the university, he didn't have any experience. When he graduated, he had to pay somebody to teach him certain things about computer science he read in university. So I want us to, while we are doing these very minor things, let's concentrate on the major. Let's deal with this kind of education we have now. Let's reform the education so that it can become skill-based than these arithmetic and mathematics based we are doing now.
All right, then now we quickly attend to some commercials. When we come back, we look at the justification of the increment of the cost of passport stoning, and of course some peek into some political matters, and then we open up the phone lines. Do stay.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Ebuka Football Street Championship, my guy. Come rep your street. Come show the world that your street has got the best talent in town. Ebuka Football Street Championship. Ebuka Football Street Championship is a football tournament to be played among different streets of Onitsha. Winners will take home 1.5 million naira. I repeat, 1.5 million naira. So what are you still waiting for? Call this number
0806-391-5257
for your registration and further inquiries. Registration runs from 1st to 30th of August 2025. Special thanks to our headline sponsors, Winners Global Estate Limited, and our media partners, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Ebuka Football Street Championship. Ball over. Na do da.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, I'll pack it and they do yellow. Wendy's bread, mama papa they like Wendy's bread, that kitchen they do. Wendy's bread, even children they like Oh, when this bread in town, when this bread, you get it better tasty, we go sweet your belly. When this your body chama, when this bread is champion,
when this bread, your tasty bread, you can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Misha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
Public announcement. The Anambra State Housing Development Corporation, ASHDC, wishes to inform all the allottees of the Obuwane, Liberation and Green Valley Housing Estates, Oka Capital Territory, respectively, that the corporation has opened up all the roads in these estates. Consequently, allottees are to take physical possession of their plots and develop same to habitable state. It is mandatory that allottees secure the necessary approvals before proceeding for development. Allottees who fail to comply with this directive risk revocation of their allocation. Be also informed that we have limited number of plots in these estates for allocation to interested persons on first come first allocated basis. Please be guided accordingly. Signed, Jane Okafor, Head of Media and Marketing, Anambra State Housing Development Corporation. Udala Radio, 104.7 FM. You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
The conversation is still on here, the Polity, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. So, Tony, yesterday the federal government defended this increment in the cost of acquiring international passports for Nigerians. 34 pages, now 100,000 from 50,000. And this 50,000 was increased from 35 to 15 in less than 1 year. And in less than another 1 year, we had 100,000 for 34 pages and 200,000 for 64 pages for 10 years. The 32 pages rather would last for 5 years. Now 100,000. 64 pages, 10 years. Now 200,000. People applying from outside Nigeria, $150 for 100 pages and $230 for 200 pages. Tony, I was asking myself, are we steadily taking things that are supposed to be basic out of the reach of the common man? Because what will it take the child of an ordinary Nigerian now, say, to acquire a passport to get involved in an international competition? More than the person's parents' 1 month's salary if we go by minimum wage.
I saw the increase yesterday, and then we must also say and also note that the Minister of Interior, that is the Supervising Ministry of Nigerian Immigration, has done great work in upscaling quite a number of things, because before now so many of these things are done manual. They are so vague. You have to stay on the queue, you have to pay or bribe your way for you to get your passport done in a record time. So we've seen that. I must also admit that I did my passport, that was in 2021, 10 year, I think in 2023 if I'm not mistaken, I think 2023, yes, and that is kind of a 62 page 10 years validity, so it's to expire around 2033 or thereabouts. And I know how much I spent to process the passports. And one thing is, there are other ways people get to these passport processing aside the normal window. If you have to do it through the normal window, you end up staying 3 months, 4 months without seeing anything, even when they will tell you it's not so. I was able to go through this release. What actually prompted this release? Could it be the cost of printing materials, or as a result of the international standard? If you look at passport processing in this country, yes, we are told that, just like you pointed out earlier on, we have 5 years and 10 years 5 years before now cost 50,000. Now it's now 100,000. And 10 years before now cost 100,000. Now it's 200,000. So that is more like 100% increment. That's what it is. But come to think about it, I know countries around us, maybe the cost of their passports. If you talk about Ghana, Cameroon, possibly Rwanda or South Africa, what is the cost of their passport, and also what is the purchasing power parity? Very key in all of this. Very, very key. But if you want me to also break some of these things down, I'll break it down. If you look at the dollar component of these passports, 200,000 for 62 pages, 10 years validity, and 100,000 for 5 years, and then 32 pages. That's 5 years validity and 32 pages. So if you look at it ordinarily, just like I said earlier on, for Nigeria, the dollar component for 32 pages, 5 years, is about $65. $65, 1 cent or 10 cents, as the case may be. Then for the 32, the other one, that is the 10 years validity, and that one is also about how many dollars? About $130, 20 cents. $130, 20 cents. That is for 64.
The naira equivalent.
The dollar equivalent of the exchange. Then if you go by what is being charged in Ghana, what is Ghanaian? Ghanaian have 5 years. I don't know if they have 10 years. They have 5 years. So in Ghana, if you also look at what is the dollar component of their passport, the international passports, one would say is about $31.26. So compare with Nigeria, that is Nigeria that has maybe the 5 year validity own, which is about $65.10. So compare.
So ours is more expensive.
Our own is more expensive compared to Ghana. Now, if you also look at, let's say, South Africa, I'm also aware that South Africa has both 10 years and 5 years. So, but if we are to talk about South Africa, 32 pages, South Africa charges $67.80. That is the dollar component, as against Nigeria, $65.10. So what do you mean? South African international passport is more expensive than that of Nigeria. So if you look at also a country like let's say Cameroon, their international passports is even more costlier. It's about $195.80. That's for Cameroon, for the 32 pages. So if you bring Rwanda into the equation, Rwanda, their own is about $69.10, as against Nigerian $65.10. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you look at these countries, they're all African countries. They have different prices for their international passports. But Ghana has the cheapest with about $31, followed by Nigeria with about $65 with this latest increment. Then if you talk about South Africa, Rwanda, and at the same time Cameroon, they are quite more expensive than Nigeria. So remember, international passport is something you trade internationally. Coming back to the issue of the purchasing power parity, because sometimes we must also look at it. What can some of these currencies, local currencies, because for Nigerians, 200,000 is a big money. Even when you convert it to dollars, it's a small money. Do you see the difference? In our own currency, local currency, is a big money. Convert it back to dollar, is a small money, more like. So 200,000 naira can really take quite a lot for you here. And the question is, how do people make that money? I think that's the basic line. It takes someone in Nigeria days, an average person, days to make 200,000. But if you convert it to dollars, it takes somebody in US in less than an hour.
Months, Tony. With our minimum wage, oh.
Okay, I think if you bring the issue of minimum wage into equation, there are many Nigerians that cannot even earn up to 200,000 naira in a month. But in the place we are converting the currency into. They earn these things in 2 days, in a day. Honestly, they earn it in a day. So my earnings in a day, if I can use my earnings in a day to process for international passports, it's understandable. But if I use my earnings in a month to process international passports, it's devastating. It's very, very devastating. So with this in view, government, in as much as trying to dollarize everything, trying to bring the international equivalent, it doesn't work here. The question is, how long does it take somebody in Nigeria to make that money and somebody out there to make that money? So you must bring those quotients into picture. Why tampering with the price? You must find a way to bring it down, find a way to even subsidize it. So many Nigerians cannot, but somebody outside the country can easily cough it out, because the person's earning within some space of hours can afford such processing. But here is not so. It is also.
Let's quickly take a dive into opposition parties battling INEC over voters' data. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and opposition political parties yesterday disagreed over alleged irregularities in the ongoing voters' pre-registration exercise and figures coming out. According to the ADC, the PDP, the LP, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the new voters' pre-registration figures showing massive listings in the southwest and specifically Osun State compared to other parts of the country is worrisome and portends danger for the 2027 poll. But INEC said it is normal, going by fast records. Tony, how do you see this, especially since forensic experts in the country have declared their readiness to help the Commission address this disparity? Do you see the Commission buying into this supposed help?
I don't see them. They will not. Most times they do their things the way they want. Most times when they call for stakeholders meeting, they would want you to submit their input at that level, as against calling for help. So they don't call for help. I'm not saying INEC as a commission that calls for help when it is necessary. Rather, they will better have a stakeholders meeting and ask for your input for them to brainstorm or streamline to come up with anything. And we've seen this from time to time. And nobody's talking about the necessary reforms in our electoral system. Nobody's talking about it. And some of these political parties trying to justle it out with the ruling party at the center, and probably other ruling parties at the state level, they are not talking about the basic, which is electoral reform. They have not thought it wise to anchor all their arguments on electoral reforms. I'm wondering what is really going on. For President Bola Tinubu to become the president of this country, while he was preparing for this position, he was also interested in electoral reforms. Check the entire section 84 of the Electoral Act. It was tailored to suit him, to make sure that the APC, being led by the then President Muhammadu Buhari, did not disqualify him anyhow. That very section that talks about for a consensus candidate to emerge, all the candidates must agree. It was tailored to protect the interests of Mr. President, because he would not agree to any consensus candidate because he would want to go all out to fight it with anybody. So situations where he fails to agree, consensus will not work. And even as that, Supreme Court seems to have, through their rulings, neutralized that very section. They will tell you that issue of nomination is entirely political parties' affair. So a political party can decide to bring anybody and say the person is their consensus candidate, even when other candidates do not agree. By Supreme Court rulings, which is also part of our common law, because whatever Supreme Court says is also a law. People don't even know that. It's a law. That is what we call the common law. It's a law-making court, a policy-making court. That's what it is. So, even at that, we've seen all judgments from time to time neutralizing that section 84. But the point I'm trying to make is, when Mr. President was getting himself ready, he ensured that he used his men at the National Assembly to bring up these reforms to protect his interests. But it happened that the then president was not somebody who interferes in some of these things, so he was quite non-interfering in all of this. So he allowed everybody to have a level playing field. So the point remains, in this issue of voter registration and all that, You can have some of these things done. You can call for help. There could be glitches, but the bottom line is that is not our major problem. It's not our major headache. That's the point I'm trying to make.
All right, then you can join the conversation now. Go ahead and put a call across to 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. We also live on Facebook at Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Drop your comment right under the post or the video of this show. And of course, from that, a new policy by the Commissioner of Education in Anambra State, Professor Ngozi Chumaude, concerning books being reused, the whole idea of books being phased out after one session, not being welcomed anymore in institutions, educational institutions in Anambra State. What do you make of it? How do you make of this disparity between voters' data as presented by INEC, and of course how political parties view it, and of course the increment and the cost of getting international passports for Nigerians? How do you see these matters? We are doing 1 minute today. Be as objective as possible. Go straight to the point, and please let's not dwell on the greetings.
Hello,
good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Akamere.
Go ahead, Akamere.
I'm calling from.
Go ahead, Akamere.
I'm happy with the Udala effort. If I did show us that the government is listening to this radio station, because this is one of our cried out. We are saying it that this thing on education section should stop. So I'm very, very excited when I got the information that the Anambra State had decided to stop all this, trying to install from the parents. So I'm happy, and I want to appeal to other FM, please. Whenever anyone comes here, just allow us to say our mind. We are not fighting the government. We just want to know so that everything will work fine. I'm happy with what you guys are doing. Thank you so much. Because of what this Commission of Education have done.
Thank you very much. Your point has been noted. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to be the one of small kingdom. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, Baloge.
This is Bishop Bells. I'm reaching people from Awada. Both sit up on a presenting of your body. Can I move on?
Go ahead.
All right. Please, I want to say something about what the governor of Bauchi State said in an interview concerning PDP running PSOP and Jonathan to come into their party for 2027 special election. Well, I look at it as a welcome development. If at all they are going to make kind of a Muslim coexistence among both of them. We are seeing Jonathan and the Obi. Obi, I want to say, is more popular at the people's mind than Jonathan. But seeing Jonathan again succumbing to be the vice of Obi, I don't know. And if Obi could be the most prime bearer, so what is Jonathan going to be again? So I want to tell them to do their homework very well.
All right.
To make sure that they revive the party they're preparing for 2027 election. But
we have to let you go at this point. Go straight to the point so others can have a chance to air their opinions. Good morning.
Wonderful morning to you, Favor. A pleasant morning to you, my honorable speaker, Chief Dr. Olisa Mbeki.
You're welcome.
A wonderful morning to you, Franklin. Honorable Franklin, wishing you for the Yeah, let me just start with the issue of passports. I see this very administration of Bola Tinubu to subdue Nigeria into remaining in Nigeria, even when things are not working. Yeah, how can you tell me that if it's not to start people in here in Nigeria, why must you increase the money to 200 for a passport, international passport that you are not even importing? Even if you are importing those materials, must you relegate us to being stuck in Nigeria? No, people have their right to travel. One thing you should know about Nigeria, even if you like, take it higher to 500,000, people will still travel. I haven't said that. the issue of education and that of the clamor that we have been clamoring on many platforms, and the governor and the Commissioner for Education of Anambra State has decided to take it upon himself. I want to say a good applause to that, and I want to say wake up to all the various cries we have been crying here in this platform. Thank you so much. Let me stand by.
All right, then 0803-221-6973. Good morning. You have 1 minute. Could you please turn on the volume on your radio set?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
No.
I'm sorry, you need to reconnect. And please turn down the volume on your radio set. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
My name is calling from Asaba.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, for me, talking about this increment, it's just that this particular government are just trying to tell us that this country belongs to some class of people. So if you can tell me that something that you met at 35,000 naira, from 35 to 50 to 50 to 100, what are they trying to tell us? Why does this government just fill up increment on everything that they made? It's just Nigeria to put their eye and know that this government is not for the poor masses.
All right.
Yes, that's just the truth there.
Okay, I have to let you go. Franklin, I think we should go check Facebook out. What have you got to say over there?
Yes, we have to look at the post we have on our Facebook page. Let's see the reactions. Okay, in one of those reactions, one is quite funny, which I'm going to read it out the way the person wrote it. Okay, so he says, what's that name again? Listen, trying to get the name. He says, okay. Maazi Nworie Chikwadorum Osinachi says, may all the Ebukas give their lives to Christ. from that Onitsha. Well, okay then. Ife Diego Thango, thank you for also watching us live from Otumo Onitsha. Bless you too. So these are the two reactions we have on our Facebook page.
All right, then we are going to take a few more calls. Please go straight to the point. 1 minute. Are you there? You may need to reconnect. And so before we round off, we just have 2 minutes, and if you'd like to quickly chip in something, 0803-221-6973, 0803-827-6694. And while that's going on, Tony, I think we should already react to the comments we've gotten so far while we take this call. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Sorry.
Good morning.
I got in late. My phone has been giving me a lot of trouble. Good morning, Dr. Tony. Good morning, my baby. Francis, my friend, Thomas. Yes, I'm very happy about the turnaround of things in Anambra State, and they welcome international ice shop. We are going to adapt here in Delta State. But we don't have all the big man.
Thank you. All right. Tony, something struck me. Well, all the commendations we are coming in, how do we make sure that this is adhered to? And is this the timing? What do you feel like about the timing? Because most schools, their books have already been bought to. You get. So how do we now make this work at this point in time?
I think the most important thing is the fact that there is still no time that you can say is obviously late. The Anambra State government has come up with a policy on education, on issue of textbook. You don't use textbooks to ensure that assignments are written, so they must also go all out to enforce it. One problem we have is not about policy release, it's a lot about enforcement. There are some schools that will not comply. They will tell you, okay, come and hold us. So how do you go about it? So I think in releasing such policy, you also find a way to say that we are going to come to different schools from unannounced, so that they will have it in mind. And you also have to come up with either those enforcers or task force, whatever you call it, for you to make sure that whatever you say is obeyed. Is one thing to make statements, is another thing for this statement to be complied with. So let's work around to ensure that parents are not exploited. Just as we are crying over the increments meted on the international passport, Nigerians, many of them cannot afford it. Many cannot afford it, and government should do something on that level. We know very well that by international standard, yes, it's not too exorbitant based on dollar equivalents, but based on how we make this money here. Instead of, I don't want to use minimum wage, on how we make the money, it is excruciating. It is toiling. So it is important that government consider these bounds for before they can come up with any policy at all. There are things government can do for the people. Government should also find out, apart from giving handouts, apart from giving peanuts in the name of social intervention programs, what are those things you can do for the citizens? And not just few selected citizens, majority of them. What are those things you can do for them? Apart from roads, apart from and some of these things, what are those things you can do for them to make their living a worthwhile?
All right, then. Thank you, Tony, for your wonderful analysis this morning. Franklin, parting shots.
On this international passport, because what actually got me worried is that the increment was coming at a point when we have witnessed instability in the exchange rate. Because if it had come a time when the exchange rate was skyrocketing, it would have been more understandable, because we know that some of the things they use in getting the passport, of course, some of them are imported. But at the point where we have seen stability, I know now for a while now, in fact, since January this year, I don't think a dollar has gone beyond 1,600. So we have seen that stability. So I don't understand. They said it's for them to make it to become, quicker and what have you not. Well, but I must tell you that on the other side, some Nigerians will comfortably pay this very money, provided that it's as quick as they have said. Because when I got my international passport, I met somebody who came from Ghana. He traveled from Ghana, went to Lagos to get his own. It wasn't working, and he came to Anambra State to get his own. But at that same time, I also met somebody who came today and was asked to come back in 2 days' time to take his passport. Whereas others were telling you have to wait for 2 months before you take it. So if they're going to eliminate that racketeering, whereby people pay for a certain amount of money, pay their way through to make it quick, many Nigerians will comfortably pay. But there are others who will find it difficult to do that. Then on the issue of this very number of registered voters or pre-registered voters in Osun State, which some parties have raised concern about, I just want people to take their time to do some studies and see, because in fact, even when I saw it first, my mind ran back to the last time that we did this very registration. Osun came first. If you check the record, you see that in 2025, the one that just happened, Osun recorded 393,269 pre-registrants, topping the chart after 1 week. Then if you go to 2021, 2022, that same CVR, within 24 hours that the online portal came up, Osun recorded 59,331 registration. Then by 8 week, that was around August 23, it had reached 365,412 online pre-registration. If you also go to 2022, 2021, you can see that it's not something that just happened. There's been a trajectory.
All right, then. I hope other states learn from this instead of the fights that have been going on. What are they doing that is making their people, gain more trust in the electoral system, so much so that they are steadily registering to be part of the voting community? So it's simply the mindset that when you talk about the process of choosing your leaders, it is something that you have to be actively involved in and not passively, because trust me, politics is about the lives that we all